So I'm Raymond Lee. I'm the co-founder of Founders Creative, and also I'm a partner at Progressive Ventures, which is a seed stage venture fund that invests in B2B AI SaaS startups backed by the world's top accelerators. So speaking of accelerators, we have a session of talks by some YC founders today. We're really looking forward to that. We also have an exciting VC panel featuring Maverick Ventures, as well as Nimble Mindset Ventures, along with a few other great venture funds. Then we also have an executive panel featuring speakers from Salesforce and also from AI Squared, among other amazing companies. Founders Creative is a 10,000-member AI community consisting of founders, investors, executives, and operators. And amazing things happen at our events. Startups that pitch at our events or speak at our events go on to get acquired in as little as a week. That's one really exciting sort of example I like to point out. But also VPs of engineering or product get hired. New clients are secured at our events. So there's a ton of value coming to our events. There's a lot of exciting things that happen at our events. But it's not just exciting folks, accomplished folks in the business world. The individuals that come to our events are multifaceted and accomplished in many other areas, including winning Olympic gold medals and also performing at sold-out shows as a comedian and being creative directors. So I highly encourage everyone here to talk to the persons next to you, share your goals, as well as share how you can help others so that we can foster more connections and hopefully celebrate your successes down the line. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to the stage our next speaker. She is the founder, Chief Product Officer, and Technical Officer at Kuvo. She's the managing partner at Progressive Ventures, co-founder at Founders Creative, multiple-time founder. The list goes on, but without further ado, I'd love to welcome to the stage Mala Ramakrishnan.
You know, I was listening to that, wondering, who's this person? Who is she? Who could it be? Thank you, Raymond, for that build-up. So I'm Mala. I think all of you have seen me multiple times inviting you, and I'm available to speak to you. I'm going to move very quickly because we have a very packed agenda of amazing speakers today. The first panel is going to be our venture panel. So I'd like to invite to stage Vince and Raghu and Faye and Marriott. Just grab a seat. So we are right under the Googlers, and therefore they cannot bump up the mic any higher than this. And so you're going to have to listen very intently. So we'll start off with introductions. I'm Mala Ramakrishnan. I'm the managing partner and founder of Progressive Ventures. We invest in seed stage companies, primarily B2B, AI-first companies. I do look for at least one underrepresented founder. And I have several of my partners here, so big shout out if you could raise your hand. It's just amazing how many of you have come today, and I'm thrilled. And we're all going out to dinner after this. If you want to join us, just hang out with us, hang out a little later. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Vince to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Vince Lane, and I'm managing partner for Maverick Ventures, also venture partner for Hermitage Capital. So with Maverick Ventures, we invest in early stage, which we call frontier technologies, artificial intelligence, SaaS, and robotics, also some Web3 and blockchain investments. On the Hermitage Capital side, we invest in later stage, more on the private equity side, where stages probably like A to and on, also in technology and frontier technologies. On the other side of the fence, I'm on the board for HBS. I chair entrepreneurship for the Alumni Association here in Silicon Valley. I'm also a Davis alumni, so go Davis. And we have a new AI innovation center that we're building, and I'm actually chairing that group. And I also manage the MIT entrepreneurship and mentoring team. So a lot of those groups too, we do a lot of different events. So we'd love to work with different people to be able to kind of just build up entrepreneurship in the Bay Area. So.
Hello, my name is Faye Sahai. I'm founding managing partner of Telocity Ventures, investing in healthcare, digital health, wellness, mental health, U.S. and Canada, early stage companies from that. I spent my career in healthcare, leading like the Kaiser Permanente Innovation Lab and Innovation Fund and Blue Shield Strategy, and had a few of my own startups. And I also lead a group, the Innovation Executive Forum, of the top innovation leaders of the Fortune 500 and the corporate venture capital groups, and also working with Stanford on their Distinguished Careers Institute fellows, and the future of work and the future of education.
Great. Thank you. Hi, I'm Mariette Wharton. I'm the CEO and founder of Nimble Mindset Ventures. I'm a 3-time founder, and my first exit was the first cloud video conferencing company, which started in 2008, 3 years before Zoom started. And now I'm also running a nonprofit called Nimble Mindset, and we do primarily female venture building all over the world, including in Africa. And one of our board members here, Laureen Hidalgo, and an incoming one, Johanna Mahal. So very happy to be amongst this amazing group. And I've really shifted my focus. I've been investing for about 12 years in startups. At this point, it's close to 100 startups I've invested in across SaaS, robotics, fintech, neuroscience, AI, of course. And now I'm really shifted my focus into longevity and regenerative health, and super passionate about that. So looking forward to telling you about the trends in that.
Happy to be here. Raghu Marabushi, investor at National Grid Ventures. This is the CVC arm of National Grid, which is this big utility in the UK, and then the Northeast here in the US. I think we are a utility in 5 states. So mainly investing in Series A, Series B, both energy transition and digital infrastructure, which is basically software, enterprise software.
Wonderful. It's such an honor to have all of you here. It's amazing. And super excited to listen to them, right? And we will open it up to audience questions, maybe 1 or 2, so to listen in. So the first thing that we'd love to understand is, how are AI trends changing the way you're making investments? Everyone is talking about generative AI and LLM, and is it just an AI wrapper on some of these companies, or what are you looking for when you look at AI investments? Well, to me, it seems like AI is just becoming a fundamental tool. So almost all companies are now incorporating it. So it almost seems like table stakes now to have that as an application, unless you're a hardware company. And so I think it doesn't really change the fundamentals of what it means to be a good startup in terms of having a really solid team and really deeply understanding your customer and properly segmenting the market and figuring out how to do strategic positioning and all those things that make a startup really successful, particularly product market fit. I think what's different that I'm seeing in the space that I'm in is more consumer-facing applications for longevity and regenerative health. And what that really is leading to is a lot more transparency in data and collection of data, and that's really shifting the type of data sets that we're seeing. So I think there's fundamentally just more information, and that accelerates the clinical trials that are happening. It's accelerating, it's shortening that period. There's just a lot more robust data that I'm seeing. And I think that's just makes it more appealing. It just makes it more likely to get funded when you have, when you can shrink some of those things that and lower the risks.
I did want to add that there's a lot of excitement about AI. We see AI in everyone's pitch deck. Luckily, they can all spell it. So from that standpoint, though, is really diving in. As an investor, we actually want to know, where's your data set from? How are you training it? How are you reducing the biases in your data set? So like one of the cases in kind of healthcare is this really good algorithm, right? It proved to be effective, and then they spread it everywhere. And then it realized it was really biased, and it was detrimental from that standpoint. So there was a lot of excitement about AI, but there also is kind of caution. How are you training it? How are you making sure it doesn't get delusional from that? How are you verifying the data and where it's going? So I think there is a lot of promise. In healthcare, we're looking at, right now it's taking 11 years from your symptoms in mental illness or mental health to get the right type of treatment. We're seeing, let's disrupt that. We're going to be able to diagnose you quickly through your voice, your eyes, how you use your phone, every way, and then find the right treatment. So you're not trying to struggle between 20 different therapists, treatments, medications, where you're going, and really kind of disrupt it from that. So a lot of excitement, but also cautions on that area.
So I like to always put this into kind of two buckets because I get asked this question quite a bit. So one from the investment standpoint and one from a personal standpoint. So from the investment standpoint, a lot of people think venture capitalists, unless you run your own company, have your own fund, you work in teams and you have to have partners and you have to have consensus. So the way we look at things is, how does it monetize? It could be a wrapper, it could be whatever. At the end of the day, these are all SaaS companies still, and AI is just a tool that's enhancing that everybody's using, which is great. So it's a kind of a bump up, a plus if you have that, and you should have it. But can you monetize that? And how do you monetize it? All these other features that they've mentioned, great points, right? The reliability, scalability, all these other things are things that you would normally be doing with any new product. So nothing has really changed. It's just a new type of technology that we're innovating. Now, the thing from my own personal view, and I travel around the world, I talk to a lot of different people. I'm involved with MIT Innovation Labs and all these different, like Stanford and Berkeley. And I make it a point to go to all these meetings and listen to what they have to talk to. And one of the things that really kind of scares me is, we've got all these companies, everybody's doing AI companies. And if I was a founder today, which I am in some of the founding teams, what worries me is like, okay, guys, and I'll just talk like if I'm on a founding team, which I'm assuming a lot of you here are founders, like, oh crap, well, what happens if we do this and then it just bypasses us and shoots past us in like 6 months, right? How do we pivot? How do we kind of scale up just so we could catch up to where we are? And one of the things that at one of the organizations that's an issue, then it's a concern of mine too, is all these autonomous AI agents that are just working on their own. So it's sort of like you created this little robot, kind of software robot that's just out there creating their own companies, their own teams, their own code. I mean, how do you compete with that? If you were to ask me, I don't really know, look for people like you to be able to find those solutions. I'm just an investor, right? Like, I can go, wow, okay, that I can see in 6 months, we can monetize it, we can do certain things, but I can't see what the future is going to look like. And I don't really know if a lot of people can right now see what that future looks like.
So maybe a contrarian thing, right? We are not investing in AI, but 4 of our portfolio companies use AI to address whatever problems they are addressing. So we're looking at it more as a horizontal technology than an actual vertical to invest in.
So it's more like table stakes is what you're saying, that AI has to be table stakes. But then don't you think we'll miss out on the opportunity if we don't stay on the cutting edge to see, hey, what's coming out next? How do you stay up to speed on that? Like every day there's new innovation being rolled out. A new founder comes and pitches something and you're like, oh gosh, this is just a layer on top of XYZ that I just didn't bother to read about. Right? How do you stay up to speed on it?
Well, I think I already touched upon it. I probably live in the world of paranoia. So I go around the world and, I was just in Singapore to see what the views are from all the people in Asia at a large conference. I was in the Middle East. I have startups there. In terms of the US, all over the US, in terms of different conferences, I work with MIT, I work with Stanford, constantly going to the experts and asking, what are you doing? I attend all the, a lot of my friends run some of the big, AI galleries. I mean, there's like one every hour, I think, here in the Bay Area, right? But, some of the bigger ones with some of the more reputable people, not that none of these are all reputable, but that are actually doing things. We sit there, there's actually private meetups where we go, where it's at somebody's house. The person who used to run Google Ventures has one of these. And we sit there and a lot of people don't know. And all we can do is we can listen to what's out there in the market today and how things are progressing, because a lot of it too is going to be based on government regulation, right? We can do whatever we want until the government says, you can't do that anymore, or you're going to have to do it this way. And that's another thing I try to keep my pulse on is I talk to my friends in the government. I have friends who work with the government and with artificial intelligence. And I think if you have a startup that's doing AI or whatever you're doing, you got to make sure you look at every different of these verticals to make sure that you're checking the boxes and you're compliant. So,
Yeah, I wanted to amplify that. I think just living here in Silicon Valley is an enormous privilege because we have all people like you in this room and many others. So I work with many engineers that are very happy to sit in their desk and not interact with people, and then they miss out on opportunities. So take advantage of the space we're in, going to events like this. Thank you for organizing this. But there's lots of free events. I would go to as many as possible and talk to people. I spent a lot of time on different websites and even on LinkedIn, looking at the top voices and following trends and seeing what people are doing as well. And I think that's really important. Just put yourself out there. And there are people from all over the world that move here. I have lots of friends that are trying to get visas and live here because there's no place else in the world that has this kind of a DNA. So take advantage of it.
Just also add, there are so many opportunities from this standpoint too, like newsletters, research, going to the universities, like Stanford has Stanford has a HAI Institute that has free conferences from you and the latest research and what's happening. But I really would encourage you to dive in, talk to a lot of people, explore, but also to Vince's point, look globally, right? The regulations in Europe are more conservative than the US, but then you go to China, even more or less conservative from that standpoint. So look at what's happening outside the Bay Area too, as well. What's happening in Israel, what's happening in Latin America. We work together with innovation execs around the world, and there's a lot of different applications that are impacted by the regulatory environment as well.
Maybe the only thing to add, these are excellent ideas, right, is the barriers to building stuff is relatively low at this point. So you can actually, as opposed to reading about what people are doing, you can actually go use the tools yourself and build not even POCs, but something that is more than just an idea. So that's a great way to understand where the bleeding edge is. Nobody actually knows where the bleeding edge is or where the edge of the technology is, and this is a great way to participate in understanding where what tool sets are available.
Yeah, that's super interesting, right? I used to think that the barrier to starting a company had gone down thanks to cloud infrastructure, right? And now it's like the next wave of innovation where you can automate human work away. And so it just really lowers the barrier to entry to start a company and run a product. And you could do that as your side gig, and I always recommend it, right? I'm always a builder. So how many of you are startup founders? Wow, that's half the room. At least more than half. So what's one piece of advice you would give a startup founder who's starting today?
I could go. One piece of advice is don't listen to any VC's advice.
Okay, I'll pick up on that. I would say listen to the customer. It's the most important thing you can do. I think a lot of companies fail because they just don't get the product market fit, or if they finally do, they've wasted millions of dollars in a couple of years, and they end up having to pivot, and it's really frustrating for everybody. So I advocate people using human-centered design or design thinking and starting with that. Use empathy, really deeply understand your customer, and then design and build your product based on that deep learning that you do. And you can't shortcut that process, or you'll end up having to retool everything later on. So that's kind of my number one piece of advice. And I'll let others go, but I have more, but I'll let others go.
I would say, so my background is I've come from every side of the fence. I've been on the VC side, I've been on the founder side, I've been in the corporate side, corporate venture side. I've been in all different types of roles, right? That doesn't make me smarter, it just makes me probably like not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. I think what's most important to do is, like these people have mentioned, don't get yourself in a box. Don't sit there and go, I'm creating this amazing thing and everybody's going to buy it. It doesn't always, if you build it, they will come, right? Yeah. You better make sure that your friend who works for XYZ company that is your potential customer may even buy it, right? You want to start, and people are afraid of giving things away for free or doing a trial. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? And if you're going to be a founder, well, first of all, I think you should really look at the lifestyle, okay? Being a VC or a founder, lifestyle's not really that great. So first of all, you should probably know that. You're not going to get a lot of sleep. You're going to be worried about a lot of things. People are going to doubt you. I'm not saying this is going to happen to everybody. You're going to have, if you have a partner, your relationships are going to be...
I'm going to paint a different picture.
You know what I mean? I think you got to be ready for that.
I've been married for over 20 years. I'm raising two teens, 13-year-old, 16-year-old. I'm running a product company. I just raised my first fund. And it just depends, it's a choice you make, I think. Yeah. But I am a meditation teacher. I teach yoga and meditation. So
I think the point I'm making is you have to know what the lifestyle is going to be like, right? It's not an easy road, but it is a great road. I mean, it's a road that I've chosen, but I think what I don't like is to come to these things and people are like, oh, it's going to be rainbows and ponies and it's going to be great. You're all going to sell your company for X million dollars. You know, what are the numbers people always like to throw? It's what, 90% failure, right? 10% maybe, right? And I think if I wasn't doing my job, if I didn't tell you what the numbers were, but if you still loved it, then you're the right person for that role. And I think that's the first thing you need to do as a founder. And then it comes to who's going to be your partner, who's going to be on your team, what money do you take, right? Who are your customer? What is your focus going to be? These are real questions that you really, really need to drill down and look at. And again, I'm not judging anybody's life, right? I could just tell you from my experiences. So
I just want to pick something that you absolutely love, that you want to wake up every day and spend a lot of time thinking about, maybe for years. And sometimes, when people are starting a company, they think, what problem do I have? So it may be a problem that you're having, but it might not be the problem that you want to solve. Maybe somebody else is better suited to that. So it's better to pick a problem that you can identify and validate, but also a problem that you truly want to solve. And I think along those lines, many companies fall into the trap of being a nurse with a needle looking for a patient. You really want to solve something that is a big pain, so you're not in that position of trying to find your patients. And decide, figure out, are you a feature or are you a company? Because it's very, very different how you're going to approach your operations if you can just be bought as a feature. And I think a lot of companies confuse that and think that they're a company that's actually just really a feature.
I just want to add, too, that times are changing. It's a very dynamic market right now. So a few years ago, I would say it was a very startup-friendly market. You could have an idea, early stage, raise money, have a high valuation, and go. It's now an investor-friendly market. So it's kind of, the ball's now in our court, where we're wanting to see, what's your traction? What is your market validation? What customers do you have? Do you have letters of intent? What is your pipeline? So it's now kind of, the market has kind of turned. The due diligence is deeper, and it's tending to be a little longer. So I just want to kind of to Vince's point, but it can be a little discouraging, but keep trying. That no gets you to the next yes. But also look at it as, it's not transactional with a venture capital. It's like a marriage that you can't easily divorce, is what I tell so you have to look at these as long-term, 10+ years relationships. So if it means getting to know that investor and making sure it's a right fit for you, that they understand your product, they believe in you, they know they can add strategic value, then that's a right investor. But don't take anyone and anyone's money, right? I've heard sad stories being in kind of healthcare where a founder's like, I took their money, it was great in the beginning, but then they demanded high growth, high expectation, exit, even to the risk of a patient's life, right? Like, it's because they don't understand healthcare, that it's a longer term game and it's an investment. So really, you've got to think about, you should be doing as much due diligence on us investors as they are on you to make sure it's the right fit. And what we've also been seeing is there's a lot of diversity. There's venture capital, there's private equity, there's banking, there's grants, there's non-dilutive funding, there's state funding, there's federal funding. So really look at all the, wow, they really upped it. Really look at all the opportunities for your funding, because that's positive. I've seen crowdfunding coming in, right, where people have been raising millions and it's direct to consumer and it kind of ups your profile. So really look at kind of the diversity.
I also advise startups quite a lot, and often I'll tell them not to get VC funding. Apologies to my colleagues here, but often it's just not the right fit. There are very few companies for whom it's really the right fit to do VC. So you should try bootstrapping, you should try the other sources that you've recommended, but it really should be a last resort, because VCs are looking for the very few companies that are going to be unicorns. And it means that you're not going to get that second, third follow-on round if your company doesn't make it. So it can actually really hurt you. And then you're giving up a lot of your equity too. So I don't think it should be a knee-jerk reaction. There's so many companies that invest countless hours and months and years doing 100 pitches, and it's just not fruitful for them because it's not a right fit.
Yeah, that's absolutely the advice that I would take and give as well, right? My companies are customer funded.
and I take a lot of pride in it so that we don't go and ask for venture money. I think the main thing is I think startup founders try and get funding too early. It's just like a marriage. You don't want to like settle down too quickly, right? You want to take your time, but also you want to show some traction. So under it's like 200,000 ARR, I'm like, maybe you should wait to grow your company first.
Yeah, and I think strategic partnerships are often overlooked, but that is a really, really good source because your objectives and values are aligned with those companies. So you can really leverage other companies that have similar goals and aspirations as you and move together. And that's often much easier also than getting venture capital funding.
Absolutely. So we just have a last couple of minutes. So I'm going to open it up to 2 audience questions. Who's first? Yes.
We are a customer-funded, profitable company. And our customers basically ask us, the AI is so hot. So what is it you can do? So we attempted to build a certain sophisticated AI-oriented search. But what they were expecting is how the agent is going to come and do a lot of the automation. But what I found is the security protocols and the tools that are available for the so-called claim the AI agents is not acceptable to our customers, auditors, and SOX compliant. So everybody is interested, customer is interested, but we don't have the technology and a tool, especially for the large enterprises, it's not available.
So what's the question?
The question is, what's the next step for us?
The next step forward in terms of security and compliance.
Yes, looks like there is going to be a lot of opportunity. So how one can look at this as an opportunity to solve the customer's problem?
Yeah, absolutely. I used to be the head of privacy for WhatsApp at Meta. And I think it has to be in the DNA of the organization. And I'm just talking as a product person at this point, right? From day zero, you need to think privacy in order to survive, especially if you're going to be a consumer-centric product. If you're an enterprise-centric, you're not even going to be able to get your first check. So I'd say it's not just AI first, it's privacy first, it's security first, and you start with SOC compliance, and there's a whole slew of companies that help you do that. So happy to offline on that. We are at the top of the mark at this point, and I want to thank our amazing panelists here, and I'm hopeful that you linger so that people can come by and talk to you. Thank you so much.